Welcome. This is a recorded session of the Post-Quantum Cryptography Conference of the PKI Consortium, which took place in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. This conference is made possible through the support of the PKI Consortium Post-Quantum Cryptography Working Group and our sponsors SSL.com, Entrust, Keyfactor, HID, and Crypto4A. And with exceptional organizational support from SSL.com, Keyfactor, Logius, POS Digicert, Baker Tilly, MSC Trustgate, and Digitoris. Join the discussion. Join the PKI Consortium. Go to pkic.org/join.
All right, everybody, we're going to get started once again. So if everybody could grab their seat, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, so last session before lunchtime, I welcome you all to the panel discussion, Scaling Trust, CLM Roadblocks on the Path to Post-Quantum Resilience. I will announce your host, Chris Bailey, who is the chair of the Board of Directors and Executive Council of the PKI Consortium. Over to you, Chris.
Thank you, Samantha. So welcome, everyone. So today we're going to be talking about the challenges and exploring for enterprises, the challenges they face uniquely for CLM when they're trying to expand their infrastructure. With the CLM technologies, there are certain challenges that they have that are unique. And our board, our panelists here have some of the most experience in the industry. With me today are our panelists, but I'll introduce myself, Chris Bailey. I have about 25 years of experience in the PKI industry. I'm also the board chair for the PKI Consortium. I serve as a board member for AppViewX. So why don't we introduce the panelists, and we'll start with the name, title, organization, and how long you've been in the industry. Chris?
Chris Hickman, Chief Security Officer at Keyfactor. Been in the industry longer than I care to admit. Longer than you, Chris. And been with Keyfactor for 19 wonderful years now. So that gives you a little hint of how long I've been around.
All right, Palanisamy. I'm the co-founder and CSO with AppViewX. I've been with the industry for 25 years, roughly half of it on the customer side, mostly in the financials, looking at different vendors, and then half of it on the vendor side, looking at different customers.
Hi, I'm George Parsons, head of PCAS strategy for CyberArk. Previously part of Venafi. CyberArk bought Venafi back in October. I have a long history, 30 plus years. I was one of the founders of VeriSign, invented the trust infrastructure for the world. The wildcard certificate, you can hate me or love me, depending upon who you talk to. So lots of great experience building PKI, and it's exciting. It's the year of the PKI again.
Always will be. Great, thank you. So I thought we would start off with a poll question I put up on LinkedIn a few weeks ago. And it's really simple. The shift to post-quantum cryptography will be the hardest transition in the cybersecurity industry. 70% of the people actually responded yes. I thought that was very interesting, and I wanted to kick that off and just maybe Chris ask, why do you think that is? Do you believe that?
I actually am worried about the 30% who think that it's not, to be very honest with you. Yeah, I do actually. I don't think we've ever gone through a migration like this. If we look at what cryptography really is, it's an ecosystem that's codependent. It's not just about changing a certificate. It's not just about changing PKI. You've got to change the protocol levels. You've got to, there's a lot more lifting to do. So unlike in our previous examples, for instance, going from SHA-1 to SHA-2, where we're staying within a known set of variables, while there were some things that had lack of support, it was generally a relatively easy migration compared to what the world is going through now. So those 30% are probably in for a lot more pain. As many of our previous presenters have said, it's time to take action, and the crypto procrastinators, to borrow that term, are probably in that 30%.
Well, it was interesting when I looked at the data about I almost saw no one who was a large organization mentioned select no. So, Morley, what do you think about that? Do you think they have more knowledge about the situation?
Well, with my experience being on the customer side, one thing that I realized is that the project management cost typically is way higher than the product cost when you're rolling out the technology. And when we look at post-quantum, it is not just the PKI team or the quantum team which is doing it. It's basically the application team and the performance team. There is it's almost like we're talking about sprint and marathon in the last one. This is almost like a marathon. It's a relay marathon. Somebody stops and then another person picks up and starts running. On the slowest chain, right, is the longest, takes the longest, right? And that is why the larger organizations have even bigger challenge in getting this through. Because in my previous life, I was in the high frequency trading and the stock trading and all that, where we were talking about nanoseconds than milliseconds, which means that every change in crypto, every size increase is going to have huge impact on the applications, and all that have to be tested, validated, verified before it, and that's the most secure system that needs to be changed quickly, right? So it is going to be a huge challenge, and getting the front door secured is the easiest part, right? I think everybody could get that out pretty easily, easily comparatively, but then getting the other aspects to secure. We are talking about a zero trust world with the cloud and this data center disappearing. Getting all that end-to-end secured, that's a whole different ballgame altogether, especially for the large organizations.
Yes. Okay, get a little closer. Is that for remote users? Okay, so George, we have a lot of people that said no, 30%. What do you think they know? Do you think they're wrong, or what's your opinion on that?
I don't think they've started the journey. I think they haven't done the discovery. They don't know where their cryptographic assets are. They haven't even started to plan. So it's really disconcerting to see 30%. Hopefully it's not the 30% out of the financial services or critical infrastructure. But it's an education for all of us here on the panel to properly educate all of the customers, all of the prospects as to what moving to post-quantum really will mean. And if it was just PKI, it'd be easy, to everyone's point. Mm-hmm. It's the applications, the use cases, all those other dependencies that they don't have any control. And how many on the panel already have customers out there who still have SHA-1 in their environments? And we thought SHA-1 was a problem that was solved a long time ago, and it's still there. And that's because applications can't support SHA-2. I can't imagine what it's going to be like when customers have to uplift their entire application base to support post-quantum. If it was just PKI, it would be easy.
So
easier.
Thank you. So Chris, how does the CLM actually help in the journey to become post-quantum resilient?
All right. It is one of the foundational elements that organizations need to look at. It's well known that asymmetric cryptography is one of the first things that is likely to fall when a relevant quantum computer is available. Organizations generally take cryptography for granted, and their entire approach towards active management is a checkbox on an RFP, which is, do you support this, yes or no? And the reality is that they don't have a good management program in place, and that includes certificates and certificate lifecycle management. But that is one pillar. That is not the only pillar in a successful migration. But if we sort of take a step back, what are we going to have to do? At some point in time, we're going to have to reissue all the certificates. Okay, we're going to have to do that to a lot of organizations today, and I think we see this daily, still don't even know how many they have in their ecosystem and where they live and what they're assigned to. That is the problem that CLM solves at its core, is how do I get an inventory? How do I know where these things are? How do I know what they are? How do I know what they're tied to? And then how do I automate that so that I can make those changes in a way that is responsible to my organization? And when I say responsible, it's about being able to do that in a way that doesn't negatively impact my organization through a well-managed certificate program, which includes CLM at its core.
Great. Let me show the next slide if I can. All right. So to set up the next set of questions, I wanted to show these two polls. I did a few other polls on LinkedIn. And the first poll is basically an analysis. How long do you think it'll take to break an RSA 2048-bit key? Just to nail it down for you, the weighted average was about 7.3 years. So I thought that was fairly aggressive, but it is the sort of a crowdsourced information. So maybe it's right. But the more interesting thing is, how long do you think your organizations will actually fully transition or successfully transition to post-quantum cryptography? So before we had a 7.3, and now we have a 10.1. So we have almost a 3-year gap, 2.8. And then on top of that, that doesn't even count the issue around harvest now and decrypt later. That's just the window that we're about to miss, and that's maybe where we are. So, Morley, what do you think about this? Do you believe this? Do you think this is right?
Well, I think I'll equate this to another thing that has happened in history, which is Y2K, right? We all knew Y2K is coming, but at least we knew at the time that it was year 2000, December 31st, whatever, right? But then we didn't know what it could do, right? But at least we know the time. The challenge here is that we don't know the time, right? This is the best guesstimate that anybody can come up with. But that said, so it's about we preparing ahead for it, because the nation states know better, and they are saying, do it right now, right? And every government has called out and given the dates to work on it. So which means that is the best guesstimate than anything else. But when we talk about harvest now, decrypt later, that's in a way relatively easy problem to solve, in my opinion, because all you need is hybrid key exchange, and then almost 41% of the Fortune thousands have already implemented that within a year. That's almost like a flash in a network or rather computer history, right? Doing that within a year, right? That shows the urgency. That shows the urgency, and this sort of clarifies that we are losing time every day we delay starting something.
Great. Let me actually go to one more slide. So basically, I'm asking, do organizations currently have enough tools and skills or budget to move to post-quantum cryptography? And this was the concerning issue. 72% says significant gaps, and very few people, 5%, felt comfortable with the current situation. So I guess, George, what do you think about this one?
Well, I think that the biggest issue is really on the skill side. I don't know how many times I've had conversations where someone will say, I have a PKI problem. What's your problem? We're having outages. No, that's a CLM problem, not a PKI problem. So the folks out there, they really don't have the skills. Now, on the vendor side, we're in a little bit better shape. So the vendors have good solutions. All of us have great solutions for CLM, and it can satisfy a lot of the use cases. And then the last but not least is, the standards aren't quite right there yet. So even though we can get our customers to post-quantum world, the standards aren't quite there yet so that we can have interoperability. And that's really going to be an issue with respect to the vendors. And in my new role as PKI strategy for Palo Alto Networks, I've had a lot of people come up to me and say, you got to get Palo Alto to do this right. And good luck.
So thank you for that. So Chris, maybe I go back to you. What can organizations do today, large organizations, to help accelerate their PQC migration, do you think?
Well, first of all, they could start doing something. Standing still and standing looking on the beach and watching a tidal wave come in is not an action plan. And a lot of people are on the beach wondering, why the water's going out. That should be indicative of something's coming your way that's probably not very good. The reality is that, and I'm seeing a shift, and I think it's really interesting to acknowledge this, right? In 6 months ago, it was a technology audience trying to push a problem for attention. In the last 6 months, I've seen some indications that it's actually becoming now a board ask of what are we doing about this, which is an interesting indication of change, which should open up more access to funding and support and the program in order to do post-quantum. So I like to see the pendulum swimming the right way for a change, and people coming to it. But it is really about making sure that you understand through these rooms and through how we echo out into our respective customer base that this is going to be a long-term program, to borrow that term that was discussed earlier, and I agree with it, that it does have steps that need to be taken, but it is a risk management program with a technology implementation. And once you can have that conversation inside of an organization, then it really does get resourced. You start to see that cryptographic center of excellence type of people come forward. You see ownership come forward. You get the cross-functional buy-in that you need in order to be successful at the scale of a large organization. There is no one place that you can start from, but it is, again, I will come back to this, it's not a technology implementation problem. Technology implementation is part of the solution. It's a larger organization recognition of risk and how to approach that in order to unlock that funding and that support and the cross-functional nature of it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is becoming a board level issue. I've actually seen it. Morley, how do you actually present this up to the board, this information?
Yeah, so just like what Chris mentioned, right? So the boards are becoming a lot more aware of this, right? But that said, I was talking yesterday to somebody on the financial side. So the first question they ask is, what other banks are doing it, or what other customers are doing it, right? So that's the first question that comes up. And this is where having the metrics, right, that 41% of Fortune thousands have implemented hybrid key exchange today. And this, a year before, NIST has just standardized it, right? And in a year, getting to 40% adoption is huge. These metrics help you justify to the board stating that the industry is moving way in a different direction, way forward, and also used the nation's like NSA and NIST and the US, UK cybersecurity, like Malaysian government has announced. So whatever the states have announced the timelines, those play an important role in getting the board to acknowledge and understand the timelines and the focus. Now, this is not just an investment on the crypto where you get a new PKI and the PKI team upgraded and whatnot, right? This is a strategy. This is a company strategy, an enterprise strategy that needs to be built out to upgrade the systems to post-quantum, right? I see there is a slight divide happening between the big tech and the enterprises when we look at web PKI and crypto and whatnot, right? And this will help explain or justify the need for investment and focus in post-quantum for enterprises.
So George, just continuing on that discussion, how should organizations track the KPIs, the key performance indicators for the board, and maybe KPIs that are non-board?
Well, what this really allows us as PKI strategists, as technologists, is we finally have board level visibility. PKI has been so foundational, yet the funding for PKI and PKI infrastructure hasn't been there. So what KPIs do we need? Okay, what is our inventory? Have we done discovery? Of the discovery that we have, how many are under management? And a lot of what's in the maturity model has some great KPIs, and that's one of the things that as an industry, the three of us can actually take back to our companies and say, these are the KPIs that we want to track as an industry. And then how long will it take you to replace a certificate? What are the trends? So I hear a lot of, okay, I know where we're at, but how are we doing? How are we trending? And all of this comes into play, and you have to make it really simple for the board level, and then you have to make those KPIs useful to your operational teams. And it really becomes a governance issue, not necessarily a technology issue. the tooling, we'll provide the tooling for the customers, for the, everyone to provide these KPIs, but it really becomes a governance issue to force this change to move to full automation, because face it, we're not going to be able to do this if we don't have full automation. And that's, we can thank Cab Forum and Google and Apple for pushing everyone to 47 days and 30 days, because that's forcing the issue. They didn't do that because they're worried about the threat vector of a 2-year certificate. They did this to get everybody ready for post-quantum.
So maybe this time we can take some questions from the audience. If you have any, I can certainly ask more questions here, but I want to give people a chance to ask. Do we have any questions from the audience or even people who are remote? Okay.
So first remote question is actually addressed to George, and that is what unique role does effort estimation, specifically COCOMO 2, play in PQC migration compared to other software?
Could you repeat that?
What's my accent, maybe?
No.
What unique role does effort estimation, specifically COCOMO 2, play in PQC migration compared to, say, other software?
Well, you need to move from, whatever it used to be 4 hours to replace a certificate to, automation. So, that effort estimation has to be there, because if you don't know how hard it is to do a rotation, you can't estimate what kind of staffing you need, what kind of velocity you need, what kind of sizing you need with respect to your CLM and your PKI that supports the CLM. So all of this is important. And as practitioners, if you don't know how long it will take, you can't go to your management or report to your board that, hey, we've got a little problem, a medium-sized problem, or a huge problem. And it really gets down to what is your certificate landscape. The latest numbers I've heard is for every human identity, there's 82 machine identities. 82. And that's only going to go up.
Yeah. Sorry, just for note-taking purposes, that was Punkage remotely. There's another remote, unless somebody else in the room has a question. This is from Bill Turner. This is to the panel as a whole. What are the potential benefits and risks of AI in PQC migration, particularly regarding data exfiltration concerns?
Who would like to take that one?
Well, I'll start with that one. I was actually attending a presentation at a different conference not too long ago, and long story short, there was a session on AI, and it's the first time I've actually heard somebody say, hey, if you're building anything agentic AI and you're not building post-quantum into it today, then you're actually putting your organization at risk, period. So there is a tie between the two. But as far as the data infiltration piece goes, agentic, any AI is just a piece of code, right? It needs to be signed, it needs to be secure, it needs to have an identity, so on and so forth. And we shouldn't really treat it differently just because it threw AI in front of it, but we do have to acknowledge the scale, right? And the scale is very different. Where we talk about 1 to 82, when agentic AI comes along, it could be 1 to 10,000. As an example. So, and interestingly enough, PKI is beautifully suited to solve that use case. We know how to scale PKI. We know how to get certificates out to non-humans. We know how to do all of these things, and we know how to do it quickly. And we also have a lot of experience now dealing with things like ephemeral certs and so on and so forth. But it doesn't fundamentally change the fact that every certificate needs to be securely issued. It needs to be managed. It needs to be auditable. It needs to be logged. And whether it's agentic AI, the next use case, or the 452 that came before it, this is why CLM is such an important part of what you're going to do moving forward. I love everybody else's input, though.
So when I think of agentic AI, I think of not necessarily the tools that you're using to help on Black Friday, and that was a great example that you had yesterday, Chris. But I'm thinking of the bad actors and how they're going to use it. So right now, the bad actors, they do sleep. Agentic AI, they don't sleep. So all these companies, all the organizations that have not patched or have holes. Agentic AI are going to be able to see that and go after it quickly and do infiltration, exfiltration. And that's what really frightens me more about agentic AI than how to protect it. Because to your point, we know how to protect it. We know how to do ephemeral issuance of identities. So that is not as much of a concern. It's the bad guys that I'm worried about.
I think my take.
Yes.
It's on. Okay. My take is, both AI and quantum, right? Maybe a decade ago or even a year ago, right? We don't have a standardized protocols, which means that everybody's starting at the starting point. Implementing it with post-quantum, one would help not to have to go rework it. So we don't have the baggage of legacy for that. Right? That's one important aspect. And then again, when we look at data security and all that, and quantum is the post-quantum crypto is one of the main focus, helping you solve that. So it is imperative, and it is pretty clear that we need to make sure we keep that into consideration and make sure we implement the post-quantum crypto, and also with CLM manage all those in a lot better way.
So there was one last question remotely. Actually, there's two now. And this is great for CLMs vendors. What is the current prevalence of spreadsheet-based crypto asset management among users?
Maybe before we answer that, we have just a quick one-liner because we're almost out of time. Anybody want to take that? What's the current state of spreadsheet-based tracking of certificates?
I think every new prospect or customer that we go to, it's not surprising that they still use Excel spreadsheets.
Far too many, and definitely represented in the first result of 30%.
Great.
Oh, that.
Yes.
Yep.
I think we're done for time. But why don't we adjourn for lunch? And first, let's thank the panel for their contributions here. This was a great presentation, great discussion.
Great.
So thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes.